Center. In studio with us, Homa Bay Women Representative Honorable Gladys Wanga. We also have Wangeshi Wachira, who is the Executive Director at the Center for Rights, Education and Awareness. And last but not least, Florence Mashio from Equality Now. Florence, before we took a break, we're talking about accountability and the fact that, you mentioned more than 40 women have died in the span of just a few months. The circumstances very horrendous, but where is the accountability? What has your experience been through Equality Now, especially for victims seeking justice?
The process is, first of all, tedious. The process is intimidating for even just women to report. Picture this scenario. A woman is beaten in the middle of the night and it's 3 a.m. Tell me where she'll run to. Do we have safe houses? No. And then she goes to report. When she goes to report, she's told, hii ni mambo ya nyumbani. So she goes back home. So that means this woman will not report again. And the next time we hear of her, she will be long dead. And then we will be like, why didn't she live? Yet when she went to the system did not protect her in the first place. And that's why this vigil is not also just mourning our sisters who have gone, but also looking at the fact that women actually need protection. When you have a woman, a police woman being killed, and she's a policewoman, then you as a civilian start worrying about your life and thinking, how safe am I in a society that does not think my life matters? Like we are saying, our lives matter. And we're also saying it cannot be madaraka. We cannot be having madaraka when women are dying and nobody is declaring this is a national disaster. I was looking through and seeing what are the criteria of declaring a national disaster. And I've seen we've had an accident of 20 people on the road. It was declared a national disasters. Speed bumps were put in place, like really fast money was found. We've had 16 people die of cholera, and cholera was cited as a national disaster. We have 40 women dying. What are we waiting for?
That's a good question. And Honorable Wanga, you were asking what is happening in society that even after 40 women have died, not only is it normal to kill women now, the system really isn't doing anything about it. Let's talk about that and what really can be done.
Yeah, first of all, I think we must explore that conversation on what is happening within our society. And you said earlier, when, for example, girls are killed, you find that a section of society still feel like it's okay. What did she do to make her be killed, And so people look for those reasons and said, oh, maybe, she took someone's money or this or that, or she was doing that, and so she deserves to be killed. Is that where we have gotten to? Nobody deserves to die. For any reason at all, no life deserves to be taken, and this is the conversation. And I want to stick to the societal issues a bit. Where are we as a society? And we must also speak about mental health issues. What is happening? I think part of the reason we are having this vigil, apart from accountability from our government, which we want to see from the judiciary, we want them to tell us what is happening. Why is it that people who have been, charged with murder, get it so easy to just get, really low bail and get out there and keep walking? One of the things we are thinking about, should we make these offenses non-bailable? So that when you're charged with murder, you stay in.
Right.
Your case is sorted out in. But apart from that side of things, we must have the conversation where the rain started beating us. What is happening to our boys? We are mothers. We are mothers of boys. We are mothers of girls. Are we speaking enough to our children? Are we telling them love has happened since Adam and Eve? And it doesn't matter if somebody, leaves you, just leave them alone. It's not worth, it's not worth someone's life.
Right.
People have loved each other for as long as we have lived. And are we teaching our boys that level of confidence?
Right.
Are we teaching our girls that there is no such thing as free lunch?
And these are two very pertinent things that Honorable Wanga raises. First, the very issue of where did the rain start beating us? Is it because, Wangeshi, we focus so much on the girl child, like society has been complaining that we've forgotten about the boy child, and this is now the repercussions of what is happening in society?
I don't think that to say that the focus has been on the girls and the boys has been left really is valid. And there were reasons why there was a focus on girls, because for a very long time there was a lot of discrimination. When boys were going to school, the girls were being left at home. We have girls who are getting married at the age of 13. We had women, as it is even now, getting to the leadership position. It hasn't been a walk in the park for women have really been able to fight to be able to get in those leadership positions. So I don't think the focus is because we have there is no one that's over-empowering. Nobody can never become over-empowered. I think the society has really gone the opposite side and not really be able to address the issues. And I will tell you, for example, we have an office that focuses on issues of women and access to justice. Right now, we have more than 17 women coming to our office every day. When they're coming to our office, not because they're happy, it's because they are going through violence, they're going through silence, and they're looking for justice. And whereas we are looking for that justice to be able to be delivered to them, it takes a lot of time. A matter in court will take, for example, 3 years. How many people are waiting to be in court for 3 years? Okay. And then when we go to a religious institution, what do we say? We have found counselors who say, stay in that marriage, because that marriage, you're the woman, you should make it happen. Even when violence is happening, till she's there, that's when people then come and say, by the way, she said that there was violence, she said that she could see the threats, she could see all these things. And then another statistic, can we really continue as a society keep putting statistics there that women have been killed? I think it's that time we're able to have a conversation, also bring men on board. We saw a case alleged in Thika, a man driving from Thika all the way to Eldoret. Can you imagine driving all the way? How many kilometers is Thika to Eldoret? Those are many kilometers, and they never change their mind. Is it possible for people to be able to accept? When you're told no, to accept no is a no. No does not. There is no yes in between, and therefore, just because you give money, does that mean that you continue to assume that you own anybody? You can never own anybody. So I think it's a time we had a very honest conversation, and really also bring the men on board to be able to accept that when it's a no, it means no, and therefore there is no in between. Right. So I think we have, as a society, is a conversation that is right, and is the best time to be able to talk about
Absolutely.
it.
I think also we've normalized violence.
Yeah.
Last year's Equality Now, I think 2 years ago, we went to schools and we were talking to children, and they told us many things about the violations that are happening at home and the responses they are getting when they report. We also had a run where we talked about focusing on sexual and gender-based violence and holding people to account. But what I've seen, or rather from the evidence we see also on the ground, is that the society has normalized violence, that it is okay to do this and it's okay to do this. Now it has gotten to a level now we are no longer just beating, we are now killing. That is what society has done. Because we refuse to talk about sexual and gender-based violence, we are now at the level where human life has stopped being sacred anymore. So that's where I feel that is where the rain started beating us.
Right. Yeah. And Honorable Wanga, you mentioned earlier, I mean, these cases have erupted in from what we term as the common mananchi to the very elite in society. We've seen suspects walk free, being bailed on these issues. But many times you hear there was lack of evidence, lack of sufficient evidence. How do we approach this in matters of domestic violence? What can victims themselves, what processes are they likely to go through with bodies like FIDA and whatnot and KEWOPA in place? How do victims begin approaching this?
Yeah, I think this is where the conversation needs to go. First of all, the reason we're having this vigil, and I'd just like to announce that the vigil will be on Thursday from 4 o'clock to 9 o'clock at the University of Nairobi. And we hope to bring in not just women, not just the victims, but also the state actors, including the Office of Public Prosecution. Because when it comes to issues of lack of evidence, then it goes to the Office of the DPP.
Yeah.
Because he is the one who is responsible, between the DCI and the DPP, they are responsible for collecting evidence and prosecuting the cases. And I was surprised when I saw on this case of Ivy, when people actually saw the guy with the shoka doing the action, but then he later on went to court and pleaded not guilty. That he's not even the one who. Surely the DCI, between the DCI and the DPP, they must be able to tighten the nuts around these cases. And it's the same thing we're saying with corruption cases and all other cases. We must be able to take to court watertight cases. And then the judiciary, justice delayed is justice denied. You can't keep people in court and tire them for so long. I personally have a case in Homa Bay where a young girl, Sharon, was killed, who was my constituent. If you keep tiring the parents, who are poor with nothing, they have to come from home to Nairobi every so often to attend court. Let me tell you, a time will come when they will not be able to even have bus fare to make it to Nairobi. And they're dealing with powerful forces who are able to even, buy the justice system if they wanted. And this is where organizations such as Equality Now, FIDA, CREW, and so on come in, because they should be able to give legal aid, and they do a lot of legal aid, support to victims such as this, not just, with lawyers and so on, but also with, ensuring that they're able to attend court. But then we have to, really, really speak with our judiciary, and we have, even as we go into a referendum possibly, we have to think about, the way we made election cases, because because what was happening with election cases was, the cases were being determined 4.5 years later, and therefore justice was defeated. Because if you are in an election petition, you have been in parliament 4.5 years, your case is determined 6 months to the next election. Of course, that is justice defeated. We need to define timelines within which we also deal with these cases, so that we do not have a case where victims and their parents give up on justice.
Or even maybe special courts. We have special courts for determining certain issues, corruption. This is much bigger than even corruption. Can we then have special courts for that? And it is possible. It's not that we can't afford it. We can afford it.
And it's because of these long, protracted court battles that many then, because a global study shows that 1 in 5 homicide victims, the case is perpetrated by an intimate partner or by a member of the family. And because it's so intimate then with the Kenyan culture, African culture, we solve it within the society. We call the mother-in-law, we call the wazee wa kijiji to come and talk about the situation. Wangeshi, how can we move or shift this deeply rooted societal or traditional means of solving these disputes?
I think there are a number of things that we can be able to do. And for me, one is, how do we prevent the violence from happening? I think that's why we must be able to bring the men on board, bring young boys on board, so that then we can be able to have a conversation about how do we protect each other? These are our sisters, these are our mothers, these are our daughters, so that then there's a lot of prevention, because then if the cases are prevented, we are not going to have a lot of response.
But the thing is, these are our sons as well.
They are our sons as well. So there's a lot of work that also need to be done in terms of response. For example, if a case is reported at the police station, is a police officer going to sit down and become a judge and say, ini mambo ya nyumbani, mrudi, muongee, and they will even call the mother-in-laws, they will call the father-in-law, they will call every family member to be able to resolve the issue. The police have a responsibility, and they must also change their attitude that when a matter like this is reported, it's taken and given the kind of urgency it does require. I think there is also a lot of work that need to be done in terms of our judicial system. Like our sisters have said here, is it possible that these matters are going to be determined within a period of, probably within a period of 6 months? Because what other evidence is being collected? If a matter is brought to court, can it be determined within 6 months or at longest? Because, and then be able to have special courts that can be able to focus on these matters. I think the other thing is that, how do we even bring in the religious institutions? A lot of our Kenyans, we know almost 80% of our country is Christian. When we go to those churches, when we go back there, what's the message are we giving? We keep telling women vumilia, we keep telling families vumilia. What are we, nini tunavumilia kama watu wanauliwa? Can we continue with the number of 40 and going? This is only in what? We are only in the month of May, going to June. By the time we get to December, are we going to be talking about 100 people? Are we going to? This is a time then to be able to stop. I think also we would want to see the various state organs. This is a security issue. If we can be able to see a message, this is an internal security issue. If we are going to be talking about other violence that are happening, then it's also important to see the state talk about it, to have the cabinet secretary talk about it, cabinet secretary gender, cabinet secretary internal security talk about it, including the president. I think it's very important, because if a country can be losing its people and have the president not talk about it. I think for me, it's just looking the other side and saying it is not happening. So we would really want to hear the voice of the president. Not yet Madaraka, because we are going to celebrate Madaraka on 1st of June. Can we really, the women of Kenya, can we really be saying about Madaraka when our sisters continue to die?
Absolutely.
I think it's about time we had that voice. And I would really like that the president's message on this Madaraka Day is about how we live and coexist as a nation and be able to protect each other. And this should be the last point we are having women being killed in the name of love.
A clear statement there to state organs, not yet Madaraka for women. Florence, let's talk about this vigil on Friday, is it? That's May the 31st. It's Thursday. Who then will be there? Because we're looking to call out attention and have the opinion of men as well in this issue.
I think as leaders, we are calling out for every woman, every girl, and all men of goodwill to wear white, like we are wearing today.
I didn't get the memo.
Have it on your lips.
But on Thursday, you have the memo.
And then have a pink flower. Even if you don't have, we will give you something. Also carry a candle, because this is a vigil. We're going to have light candles in honor of our sisters who have long gone. But also, let's come together. And as an African society, we are always coming together to mourn and forge forward, to heal our wounds and forge forward. And because we're going to have state actors present, the Internal Security Cabinet Secretary has promised to be there, and we're hoping he will address this issue once and for all. Of course, we will share our petition on that day and say exactly what we want to see in our society. And then from there, we hope to move forward as opposed to going backwards. So this day, I'm calling all Kenyans of goodwill, men and women, but especially women, let's come and mourn with our sisters. Wear white, even if you can't make it. For whatever reason, wherever you are in the country, wear white in solidarity with all the women, and have pink. And I'm hoping you'll be in studio and you wear white and wear hot pink. And let's stand together and speak with one voice, because it is not yet Madaraka. When we don't have justice for women.
Absolutely. Honorable Wanga, your thoughts on the same?
Yeah, so on Thursday, we hope to have the Cabinet Secretary for Internal Security, together with the DCI, possibly the DPP. We hope to have the Cabinet Secretary for Gender, Public Service, Gender and Youth Affairs, Professor Margaret Kobia, and trailblazer women, including, Mama Ida Odinga and so on. And what we'd like to say clearly is a small group or just a section of Kenyans cannot make this conversation happen and make things change. It calls for all of us. And that's why, as Florence is saying, we're saying on Thursday is our white day out. So anywhere you are, to your workplace, to Gikomba, to wherever, wherever you are in this country on Thursday, please wear white and a touch of pink, just so that we show solidarity with the families, but also we commemorate our sisters who have gone. And people have also raised the question of, there are also men who have been killed and who have been victims, and this cannot be left behind either. We are carrying along everybody. What we are saying is no life deserves to be lost. But we are seeing that the numbers of women are disproportionately higher, but the men should not feel forgotten. The society cannot change without all of us. So it is men on that day, wear your white shirt, but wear your pink tie, take a selfie in the morning, put on Facebook, say I'm in solidarity, and her life matters, and ladies the same, put on your white, pink flower, put on IG, put on Twitter, let's wash
It's an entire
the country
movement,
white,
and one really that needs to continue. But even before we wind up the conversation, Cindy here on Twitter says family members are to blame as well. Once a woman complains to members of the family, especially her parents, she's asked not to disgrace the family, but go back to the husband. But after she dies, they start saying serikali saidia. And it's really true. It is what happens. But at the end of the day, even as we call for everybody, men and women, to come for this vigil, Wangeshi, just really getting the view of men in this issue, because like Honorable Longa says, once someone is killed, then you start seeing people trying to validate this issue. What did she do? You see songs coming out, Piga Shoka or whatnot, and these are songs that, you know, make it as though society validates these issues. So will a vigil really get deep to the root of this issue?
I think the video will provide an opportunity to be able to start the conversation, and that's why our sisters here were very clear that we are not only bringing the women for the video, we are looking men who are in solidarity with the women of this. And we know that out there, they're very, very good men. They're men who are able to support the cause of women. We know they're partners who are able to support women in the work that they are doing. So this is not just about the women. This is about this country having a real conversation and bringing the men on board so that as we do the vigil, we are also passing the message. So the vigil is one activity that we have on Thursday this week, but it's not going to stop at a vigil. We know the importance of working with men, even in the work that we do, because we cannot be able to address issues of violence against women, issues of femicide without bringing the men on board. But it goes back to the family. I think that tweet, it speaks to all of us, because at a home level, if that's the place, then we started to tell our girls and tell our sons that if violence does happen, what should we be able to do? Should we continue covering ourselves and says, no, it's not happening, Vumilia? I think that should not happen.
Yeah.
So for me, it's really an opportunity to encourage more men. And I would like even to have more champions. If you're able to have the president as a champion, if you're able to have the CS Matiang to be a champion, and to have our young, even musicians, talk about this and be able to also produce music that is going to condemn the kind, because Pika Shoka was quickly produced like almost the same week. Absolutely. Is it possible also to get our musicians who are also going to reinforce positive messages so that Siku Pika Shoka, no, at this point we are looking at who else can be able to amplify these voices in a way that is different from the negativity.
All right, closing comments, Honorable Longa.
Let me just say, and Cindy is so on point, because even in our counties like Homa Bay, you deal with parents who collude with perpetrators because they say, oh, that's your uncle, there's nothing we can do about it, please withdraw the matter from court. You know, it is a taboo almost to take your relatives to court, you know, so parents are big colluders in the matter of gender-based violence. And as parents, we must change, and I speak as a parent, we must really change. We must know what is relationship and what is now where the law takes its course. So even if it is your brother-in-law or your own brother or your uncle violating your child, never, ever side with them. Always side with your child, and you will be on the right side of history. Right. And even for relationships, you know, the signs are always there. You're beaten, you go, you're told go back, tafadhali jaribuni. You know, there's no excuse for violence. And we're not advocating that families should break up, you know, or you know, people say, oh, these women are just saying people, you know, should leave their families and so on. We're not saying there should not be misunderstanding. But when it comes to physical violence, as we said, we have now moved from beating. People have said now killing is okay. It can't be that way. So I think my parting shot would be, Kenyans, wherever you are, please, Thursday 30th is our white day. We are at the University of Nairobi in the evening from 4 to 9. Please make it there. And if you can't, wear white and pink wherever you are. Please, let's stand in solidarity and raise our voices on this very important matter.
The hashtag on social media is Her Life Matters.
Her Life Matters.
On the day of the vigil. All right, Florence.
I think my parting shot, beyond just telling you to be there to wear white, is also to say that we need our structural and systematic gaps addressed. I keep on saying we were promised a forensic lab in January. We are in May. And I know in this country, when we have focus on a particular agenda, we will find money. We will find and we'll be able to make sure that the system works so that justice prevails for all women and indeed for all Kenyans. Please come and be there. And from today, keep on going online and saying her life matters, because indeed women's lives matter.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being in studio for this conversation. That is Florence Mashio from Equality Now. Also in studio with us, Homa Bay Women Representative Honorable Gladys Wanga and Wangeshi Wachira, Executive Director at the Center for Rights, Education and Awareness. They are saying it is not yet madaraka for women in the wake of the many cases of femicide, more than 40 being recorded in the country since the year began. It will be a vigil on Thursday at the University of Nairobi from 5 to 9 p.m. and they're asking everybody to come out in support of this vigil and of course in remembrance of those who have lost their lives through cases of femicide. Our hashtag is KTN News Center. Do speak to us about this conversation. That